Asian Americans and for everybody who doesn't want to be reckoned with. And she's now a co-star as the queen of the Tokyo underworld in Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill Volume 1, and she joins us now, and it's so good to have you here.
Thank
really
you so
good to
much.
see you this morning.
I love being back in New York.
I want to get to the movie in just a second, but I was reading and I had no idea about you and your family and how you grew up. It says here that your parents came over from China.
They did, yeah.
And that a biological researcher and a chemical engineer couldn't find work of any kind. You ended up living in Queens.
Right, we lived in Queens. My father was a civil engineer. My mother worked at Rockefeller University for a while. But, you know, we grew up knowing that my parents would be working all the time, and so that's kind of the work ethic that we have as well.
You said when you first came over that food, if you ever had food, tended to be boiled rice and boiled cucumber, and that at times it was real deprivation, real poverty.
Well, I think it's just a matter of understanding that when you, for anybody, whether you come from another country or not, there's definitely, you know, the good thing about America is that you can, like my father's an entrepreneur now, he has his own company, and you can grow up and you can build something from nothing, and I think that is what they have taught us. And, you know, they also wanted to make sure that we were really well educated, and they wanted us to be taken care of.
For a while you worked making pajamas in a factory. You were 11 years old?
Actually, I used to work in an ice cream store and things like that, and I think one summer we worked for my father's friend, you know, doing some extra work, so.
And then, as you got older and started working, started acting, your dad disapproved of movies but liked commercials?
Well, he was concerned about my well-being, and so he thought that I would probably, you know, maybe get a commercial here and there, but he didn't think that I was going to be working in films anytime soon.
Saying commercials paid.
Commercials maybe, but films probably not.
Right, commercials were honest living. Well, let's talk about Kill Bill a little bit, because I said last week when I talked to Vivica Fox that I, who cannot watch violent movies, watched every minute of this because it does seem at some level like a satire of violent movies. When you watch it, is there any moment at which you jolt, you say, no, that's too much?
I understand Quentin's mentality and the way that his creative, you know, being behind this movie, and I think for me that I've done a few action movies, and I think this movie is more action-oriented because you know, the blood and all that is so over the top that it's not really meant to be taken seriously. I think the more difficult part of the movie was when there's a scene where she's in the hospital and she's sort of hitting his head between the door. I think that's more realistic than any of the other stuff that goes on for the rest of the film.
All right, let's take a look at a clip, because you are O-Ren Ishii.
Yes.
Wow, talk about queen of the Yakuza, the Japanese mafia. Here she is talking to some of the guys around the table.
As your leader, I encourage you from time to time, and always in a respectful manner, to question my logic. If you're unconvinced a particular plan of action I've decided is the wisest, tell me so. But allow me to convince you, and I promise you right here and now, no subject will ever be taboo. Except, of course, the subject that was just under discussion. The price you pay for bringing up either my Chinese or American heritage as a negative is, I collect your freaking head.
And she means it. Can I say she really means it? You learned Japanese?
I did. I learned Japanese from the movie, and that was such an incredible part of being in this movie, to just sort of immerse myself in the culture and the language and everything.
Do you love Chinese? Do you love speaking in Chinese?
I do love Chinese. I haven't been able to practice as much, but when I see my mom and, you know, we spend time together, we speak Chinese. We sort of speak a mixture of Chinese and English, you know.
So give me a Chinese sentence, which you think is a beautiful way for us to understand what seem like just sounds to most of us.
你很漂亮, which means you're very beautiful. So I think that's a really good way to end it.
It's a good pickup line. If you can understand it. Anyway, it's lovely to see you, lovely to have you here, and want to remind everybody Kill Bill Volume 1 was produced by Miramax Films, which is also owned by a parent company, Disney. Opens nationwide on October 10th. Stay with us, and we hope you come back sometime.
Thank you so much.
See you soon. Lucy Liu. We'll take a break.